They said it couldn't be done. The legal experts said the ban was inevitable. Congress passed a law, the Supreme Court upheld it, and TikTok went dark for 24 hours in January. 170 million American users saw their screens go blank. Content creators watched their livelihoods vanish overnight. And then, on December 18th, 2025, Donald Trump did what everyone said was impossible. He saved TikTok, sort of. ByteDance just signed binding agreements to spin off TikTok's U.S. operations to a joint venture controlled by American investors. Oracle, Silver Lake, and Abu Dhabi's MGX will collectively own 45%. American investors will control the board. American auditors will oversee the algorithm. And according to the White House, this deal resolves all the national security concerns that drove Congress to ban the app in the first place. One problem? It doesn't, not even close. Because here's what they're not telling you on cable news or in the carefully worded press releases. ByteDance still owns nearly 20% of the new entity. The underlying algorithm, the one that decides what 170 million Americans see every single day, is still owned by Beijing. And the deal that Trump is calling a total divestiture looks less like a clean break and more like a franchise agreement that keeps TikTok's core technology firmly in Chinese hands. This isn't the victory Trump claims. This is a political sleight of hand worth $14 billion. And the catches hidden in the fine print should terrify anyone who cares about data security, algorithmic manipulation, or the concentration of media power in the hands of presidential allies. The deal that wasn't supposed to happen. Let's start with the timeline, because the sheer audacity of how we got here reveals everything you need to know about this administration's approach to rule of law. Congress passed the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary-Controlled Applications Act in 2024 under Biden. Bipartisan support, overwhelming margins. The law was crystal clear. ByteDance must divest TikTok's U.S. operations to non-Chinese owners or face a ban. No wiggle room, no exceptions. The Supreme Court upheld the law in January 2025, rejecting TikTok's First Amendment arguments. The ban became effective January 19th, and then Trump took office the next day. Within hours, he issued an executive order delaying enforcement. Not rescinding the law, Congress passed that he can't. Delaying it. He's done this 4 times now, 4 separate extensions, each one lasting 75 to 120 days, each one technically in violation of federal statute. The most recent extension runs until January 23, 2026. That's over a year of Trump unilaterally deciding that a law passed by Congress and upheld by the Supreme Court does not apply because he has a deal in the works. Former Treasury official Jim Secreto put it bluntly. The deal signed on December 18th doesn't meet the standard Congress set. The law requires a clean break from ByteDance. This structure doesn't deliver that. It looks more like a franchise agreement that leaves TikTok's core technology in China than a true divestiture. The national security concerns around covert data access and manipulation of the algorithm remain fundamentally unresolved. But here's the thing that should make your blood run cold. There's been almost no pushback from Congress. Republicans who spent years screaming about TikTok's threat to national security are suddenly silent. Democrats who voted for the ban are offering tepid statements about monitoring the situation. The only substantive criticism came from Representative John Moulinaire, Republican chairman of the House China Committee, who noted in September that the law set firm guardrails prohibiting cooperation between ByteDance and any successor company on the recommendation algorithm. Those guardrails appear to have been quietly ignored. Who really won this deal? Now let's talk about the investors, because this is where the story gets truly grotesque. Oracle will own 15% of the new joint venture and serve as the trusted security partner, responsible for auditing TikTok's algorithm and hosting American user data. Oracle is controlled by Larry Ellison, Trump ally and the 6th richest person in the world with a net worth of $233 billion. Ellison hosted fundraisers for Trump during the campaign. His son, David Ellison, just took over Paramount and is positioning to acquire Warner Bros. Discovery with massive financial backing from his father. Silver Lake, another 15% owner, is led by co-CEO Egon Durbin, who has extensive ties to Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law. MGX, the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund with the final 15% stake, previously backed Trump family crypto ventures. Nearly 1/3 of the remaining ownership goes to affiliates of ByteDance's existing investors. ByteDance itself retains just under 20%. Do the math. This isn't a divestiture. This is Trump handing control of America, his most influential social media platform, to a consortium of billionaire allies, while ByteDance maintains enough ownership to profit from every dollar of advertising revenue, and enough control over the underlying algorithm to ensure continuity with the global platform. The deal values TikTok US at $14 billion. Trump personally delayed enforcement of federal law 4 times to make sure this specific group of investors got this specific deal. And here's the kicker. Trump went on TikTok himself on December 11th. The White House opened an official TikTok account. Not after the deal closed, not after the national security concerns were resolved. During negotiations, while ByteDance was still technically operating in violation of federal law, Trump used the platform he was supposed to be forcing into American hands to build his political brand, knowing full well that doing so gave ByteDance enormous leverage in negotiations. The algorithm problem. Nobody's solving. But forget the corruption and the cronyism for a moment. Let's talk about what actually matters, the algorithm. TikTok's recommendation engine is the most sophisticated content distribution system ever created. It doesn't just show you videos you might like, it shapes your perception of reality. It determines which political messages reach millions and which die in obscurity. It decides whether climate change, content trends, or disappears, whether protests go viral or get suppressed, whether disinformation spreads like wildfire or gets contained, and that algorithm is still owned by ByteDance. According to the internal memo reviewed by NPR and multiple sources familiar with the deal, here's how the arrangement actually works. The U.S. joint venture will retrain TikTok's algorithm using only American user data. Content moderation rules will be set by the American-controlled entity. Oracle will audit the algorithm and validate compliance, but the underlying algorithm itself, the core technology that makes TikTok TikTok, remains ByteDance intellectual property. American auditors will have permission to examine it. They won't own it. They won't control it. They'll be checking that it behaves appropriately. Georgetown law professor Anupam Chander identified the obvious problem. Algorithms are complex, proprietary systems that are extraordinarily difficult to fully isolate or audit. Even with safeguards in place, questions remain about how much insight U.S. authorities will actually have into TikTok's recommendation engine, and whether subtle forms of influence could still occur. Remember, this isn't like auditing financial statements. This is examining millions of lines of code, making billions of micro-decisions every second based on machine learning models trained on global data. Former Biden National Security Council official Rush Doshi raised an even more fundamental question. It is unclear whether the algorithm has been transferred, licensed, or is still owned and controlled by Beijing, with Oracle merely providing monitoring. The White House won't clarify. ByteDance won't comment. And Trump certainly isn't going to explain the technical details of a deal he doesn't understand. Meanwhile, the global version of TikTok will continue operating under full ByteDance control. 2 billion users worldwide, including the 90% who aren't American, will still be on the original Chinese-controlled platform. The U.S. joint venture will manage product interoperability with that global platform. That means the American version needs to stay compatible with the Chinese version, which means ByteDance maintains leverage over any changes the U.S. entity wants to make, which means the clean break Congress demanded never actually happens. The national security concerns that didn't go away. Let's be absolutely clear about why Congress passed this law in the first place. It wasn't about anti-Chinese sentiment or protectionism or Trump's trade war theatrics. It was about data and influence. TikTok collects location data, browsing habits, device identifiers, contact lists, biometric information, and behavioral patterns on 170 million Americans. Under Chinese law, specifically the National Intelligence Law of 2017, companies like ByteDance can be compelled to hand over data to the Chinese government upon request. No court order required, no public disclosure, just a quiet demand from Beijing, and ByteDance has to comply. TikTok has repeatedly denied ever sharing U.S. user data with the Chinese government, but denials are meaningless when Chinese law makes such sharing mandatory if requested. The concern isn't whether ByteDance has shared data in the past, it's whether they could be forced to in the future. And under this deal, that vulnerability hasn't been eliminated. Oracle will host American user data. Great. But ByteDance still has access to the algorithm that determines what content Americans see. That algorithm was trained on data from billions of users globally, including hundreds of millions of Americans, before this deal. You can't untrain a neural network. You can't make it forget what it learned. Retraining it on American data going forward does not erase the influence of the Chinese data it already absorbed. And here's the part that keeps national security professionals awake at night. Algorithmic manipulation does not require direct data access. You don't need to know that John Smith in Ohio likes phishing videos to push political content to swing state voters during an election. You just need to tune the algorithm to amplify certain narratives and suppress others. Boost content questioning election integrity. Suppress content debunking conspiracy theories. Make pro-China messages go viral. Make criticism of Beijing's human rights abuses disappear. ByteDance controls the underlying algorithm. American auditors will check that it's behaving appropriately. But who defines appropriate? What counts as suspicious behavior versus normal variation? If TikTok suddenly starts showing more anti-NATO content to European users, and more isolationist content to Americans? Is that algorithmic manipulation or organic user preference? How would Oracle even detect coordinated influence operations distributed across millions of subtle decisions? The answer is they probably can't. Algorithmic auditing is extraordinarily difficult even with full access and cooperation. With ByteDance retaining ownership of the core technology and maintaining operational control of the global platform, detection becomes nearly impossible. The franchise model. Everyone's pretending isn't real. Former Treasury official Jim Secreto used the word franchise for a reason. That's exactly what this deal looks like. ByteDance licenses its algorithm to the American joint venture, retains enough ownership to profit from U.S. operations, and maintains control over the core technology and global platform. The American entity gets to moderate content and store data domestically. They get to put American names on the board. They get to make patriotic statements about protecting national security. But TikTok's global entities will still manage e-commerce, advertising, and marketing for the U.S. platform. ByteDance still profits from every ad dollar American creators generate. The algorithms need to stay interoperable, meaning the US version can't diverge too far from the global version. Any fundamental changes to how TikTok operates would require ByteDance cooperation. This isn't a divestiture. It's a licensing agreement wrapped in national security theater. And the most disturbing part, it might actually be more dangerous than if TikTok had been banned outright. Here's why. When TikTok went dark for 24 hours in January, 170 million users instantly became aware of platform risk. They started diversifying to Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, other platforms. Content creators began building audiences elsewhere. The social media landscape was fragmenting in a healthy way that reduced any single company's stranglehold on attention. This deal reverses that. TikTok stays online, users come back, creators double down, and everyone pretends the national security concerns have been solved because Trump says they have and Oracle's name is on the paperwork. The platform risk gets worse, not better, because people stop worrying about it even though the fundamental vulnerabilities remain unchanged. What this means for the future. So where does this leave us? TikTok will officially close the deal on January 22nd, 2026, assuming no last-minute complications. American users will keep scrolling, creators will keep posting, the algorithm will keep learning, and ByteDance will keep collecting revenue while maintaining control of the core technology that makes the platform dangerous in the first place. Trump will declare victory, the billionaires will get richer, Congress will hold hearings that go nowhere, and the national security apparatus will keep writing classified reports about algorithmic influence operations that nobody reads until something catastrophic happens. But here's what nobody's talking about. This deal creates a template. What Trump did with TikTok, he or future presidents can do with any foreign technology company that becomes politically inconvenient. Pass a law demanding divestiture, delay enforcement indefinitely through executive orders, broker a deal that benefits political allies while ignoring the law's actual requirements. Call it a win for national security and move on. The erosion of congressional authority is almost more troubling than the TikTok specifics. Congress passed a law, the Supreme Court upheld it, and the president just decided it doesn't apply because he cut a better deal. That's not how constitutional democracy works. That's not how separation of powers works. And the fact that both parties are letting it slide, because they're afraid of angering TikTok, its massive user base reveals something profoundly broken about American governance. Meanwhile, Oracle now has unprecedented access to and control over one of the most powerful media platforms in history. Larry Ellison, already one of the richest and most politically connected people on the planet, just got handed the keys to what 170 million Americans see every day. His company will audit the algorithm. His company will host the data. His company will validate that everything's secure and appropriate. Who audits the auditors? The concentration of media power in the hands of Trump-aligned billionaires should alarm everyone, regardless of political affiliation. When a handful of individuals control social media, legacy media, and the platforms that distribute information to hundreds of millions of people, democracy stops functioning. Not because of deliberate conspiracy, but because the natural gravitational pull of power and money warps everything it touches. The catch nobody saw coming Trump just saved TikTok. That much is true. But he didn't save it for you. He didn't save it for creators or small businesses or the vibrant, chaotic community that made the platform special. He saved it for Larry Ellison and Silver Lake and Abu Dhabi sovereign wealth funds. He saved it by ignoring federal law and concentrating media power in the hands of political allies. He saved it in a way that doesn't actually resolve the national security concerns Congress identified. And the catches? They're everywhere you look. ByteDance still owns the algorithm. American auditors have limited visibility into what's actually happening. The deal violates the spirit and possibly the letter of the law Congress passed. Trump extended the ban deadline 4 times to ensure this specific group of investors got this specific deal. The template for future executives to ignore congressional mandates is now established. And the platform risk everyone worried about is worse, not better, because the illusion of safety prevents people from protecting themselves. This isn't a win for America. This is a win for Trump's allies wrapped in national security rhetoric. And if you think the national security establishment is celebrating this outcome, you haven't been paying attention. The former officials going on record to express concern aren't partisan hacks. They are career professionals who understand algorithmic influence operations and data security and the long-term implications of foreign adversaries maintaining control of critical information infrastructure. But none of that matters as much as the political optics. Trump gets to claim he saved TikTok where Biden failed. His billionaire friends get to control one of the most valuable media properties in the world. ByteDance gets to keep profiting from American users while maintaining the strategic advantages of algorithm ownership. And Congress gets to avoid the political fallout of actually enforcing the law they passed. Everyone wins, except the 170 million Americans who think their TikTok is now safe and secure because the president says so. They're the ones living with the catch, a platform that looks American, acts American, and claims to be American, but remains fundamentally compromised by the same foreign influence concerns that drove the ban in the first place. Welcome to 2025, where national security is negotiable, federal law is optional, and saving TikTok means handing it to Trump's richest friends while pretending the problems went away. The algorithm is still watching. ByteDance is still profiting. And the only thing that changed is who gets to pretend they're in control.